So we know who you are and who I am.
Absolutely.
Okay, then. So we're talking physical deepness or emotional depth?
Both, actually. And the one being more important to women, of course, is the emotional depth.
I just want to introduce Frank before you go on, because you're here from Montreal. You're visiting, and you do a radio show in Montreal
And what's it called?
Frank Talks.
The show is called Frank Talks, Pleasures, and Lifestyles.
And it's an alternative lifestyles
It covers
radio show.
a variety of lifestyles. I usually focus on the alternative lifestyles because I don't think that they get enough respectable coverage.
Okay, and you're coming out with a book, which
and
is
it's
called what is it again?
It's called Everything Out of Her Mouth is a Test, A Real Man's Guide to the Emotional Needs of Women.
Exactly.
The title of that book sounds very...
Sounds very offensive. This is not a book written for women. It's not a book written for couples who are happy. This is a book written for men in a way that men will understand. It's written in a very crude, very rude, very direct manner, but that's because that's how men process language. That's
Okay,
how men
so give
But
us an
helping them to
example.
understand women, obviously.
Exactly.
Give us
Right?
an
Because
example.
so many men don't understand women, and that's where a lot of the
Yeah.
roots of relationship problems come from.
I don't understand men. Tell me something about how a woman gets her emotional needs met by men. Because usually I don't find that happens. I just spend the night with them, get up in the morning and say, nice night, goodbye.
Well, if that's what you're doing, you're looking to satisfy a physical need there, not an emotional one.
I realize that.
And you may be or you may not be satisfied physically. However, if you don't address the emotional need, women cannot find any true fulfillment. And it is a man's responsibility to address those emotional needs, but what are most men taught? Most men are taught to suppress their emotion.
How do men be more emotional that women can relate to? How do they do it? Tell me. Give me an example. I want to know, like, now.
Okay, what you're doing right now is you're testing me. The words that you're saying is tell me now. The meaning of those words are I want my answer right away. The emotional need that you're giving me right now is are you dominant enough to put me in my place and allow me to be relieved of the responsibility to oversee this interaction? Now, how can I address this? The first way I can address this is with playful arrogance, where I might make a joke out of it, you might laugh out of it, but you'll get the message. Mm-hmm. That's not the one that I personally cater to because I end up being too vicious. Playful arrogance will actually scare a woman and make her even more afraid. It doesn't address her emotional need.
Okay, so how do you address a woman's emotional need? I want to know this.
I would, well, essentially...
Because I don't think it's possible for men to meet emotional needs of women. I've never seen it happen, but maybe it happens
well,
on some.
It's not something that you would see happen. It's something that you would feel happen. And some women are so damaged emotionally that they're incapable of feeling an emotional need being satisfied because they are incapable of feeling any particularly good emotions.
Bingo.
Okay. So tell me a little bit more about this emotional need business. How do people recognize, and what is an emotional need in the first place?
Okay, a woman's emotional need is a woman's need to feel special to the man that she's with. At the heart of every emotional need
Okay.
is a woman's desire, her emotional need, not a physical need, her emotional need to feel special to the man she's with. There are about 10 pillars that represent the different emotional needs of women. So the first pillar, of course, is will her reputation be hurt by the man that she is particularly interested in?
Okay.
Will he sacrifice his own reputation to protect her reputation? Will he be discreet?
Okay.
Can she feel safe? Because feeling safe in terms of reputation for a woman is much more important.
Frank Talks is sponsored in part by Everything Out of Her Mouth is a Test, a man's guide to the emotional needs of women. Ladies, do you want the man in your life to understand you on your level? Do you want your man to be able to listen to and address all of your emotional needs? Show him how much you really want your relationship to be the best it can be. Everything Out of Her Mouth is a Test makes a perfect gift. The book written by a man, for men, is endorsed by every woman that reads it. This book is a guide for men to understand exactly what a woman means when she speaks. Is that worth changing your life forever? Buy this book at franktalks.com now.
She was 19, her husband was 51, they had 6 children. He dies, she marries another guy when she's 45. He turns out to be gay. this woman did not get her emotional needs met, right? And I think my whole life I saw that where women didn't get married to get their emotional needs met. It was mostly get married for status, because you went from your father's house to your parents' house. And women were not thought intelligent enough to even keep their own money when I grew up. My mother said, don't worry about it. You'll find your husband will take care of you. They treated them like children.
Well, I'd actually really like to address this because I do talk about this in my book.
Yeah.
We're going to look at women's status within the law. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, women have been on a very, very unfair end of that muddy stick, where they simply were not giving the rights to have the opportunity to build their own lives. I'm not going
They
to
define themselves through men.
They did define themselves through men. What's happened now, and this is where men are damaged, and our current generation of men are very damaged. We were brought up, at least my generation was, that men and women are equal. That's not entirely accurate. Men and women must have equal rights under the law. We need the equal rights to protection, equal rights to safety.
Yeah.
That's what equality between men and women was designed to bring in. Militant feminism did a wonderful job of pushing that issue. They brought to the forefront violence against women as a number one issue, and militant feminism, for whatever damage they may or may not have done, the one great thing about them, they brought the issue that women must be treated as equals under the law. But something happened. Men being brought up in this generation were brought up to believe men and women are equal. Therefore, I don't have to treat her like a lady. I can treat her as one of the guys. I can communicate with her as one of the guys.
So we've lost those courtship patterns. I believe what's happening now is there's so much alienation between the sexes. I've met so many men who are totally fed up. They call themselves the scarred veterans of the romantic wars. It's getting so that men and women can look after their financial needs. Women don't have to get married to have their needs taken care of financially, or the status thing or whatever. And now men and women just get together for the old roll in the hay.
Now let's look at that particular example. We've reached a point in society where every person is given the opportunity, not the right, but the opportunity to fulfill all of their physical needs: shelter, clothing, food, transportation. But everybody has ignored the emotional needs.
Yeah.
Love was not given the value that love is given as in North America at this time. So what I'm going to throw into this dialogue is the fact that the structures that existed at one time may, not necessarily, but may have addressed the emotional needs of people indirectly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Whereas now, our structure in society doesn't allow for the structure to support people's emotional needs. People seem to have gotten confused on the word commitment. You're not committed to the person that you're involved with. You are committed to the relationship. You're not committed to her, and you're not committed to him. You need to be committed to the idea of commitment.
So is that the problem?
Is that the problem? I think that's one of the elements. People seem to forget that, hey, you may not like your partner all of the time. You may, in fact, not love your partner at some point. You may even hate your partner. But you know what? You're not necessarily committed to just your partner. You're committed to the life that you agreed that you were going to build with that partner, which may or may not include children.
And that's the institution of marriage, in a sense. You're committed to that.
Absolutely.
Okay. Now, my question to you, because of the subject matter of your show, which is, and you've mentioned before we went on the air that you had some problems when you would approach radio stations in Montreal. You were received very badly.
Some of the people that I would choose to interview on my show, Frank Talks Pleasures and Lifestyles, not only involved people who, let's say, promoted a staunch monogamous lifestyle. It would also interview people who lived, let's say, the swinger lifestyle, would interview people in open marriages, would also interview people who were in polyamorous triads. That's where three people get together to have one ongoing serious relationship, possibly with other partners. I would interview people with different sexual fetishes, whatever they may be, looking at the different lifestyles and asking some very serious, respectable questions. I wasn't a shock jock, and I'm not a shock jock. I will not ask people questions just to put them on the spot.
Okay.
How I was received? When I sent out that proposal that simply detailed, and as honestly as I could, what I would cover, I had one of the station administrators of a particular community radio station that I will not mention on air call me up, leave a very nasty telephone message using words like filth, dirty laundry, A few other words that I will not mention here on air because I don't even allow that for my own show. The only word I can think of it was abusive.
Okay.